All right, to discuss this in greater detail, we're now being joined by Elijah J. Magnier from Paris. He's a war correspondent and analyst. We're also being joined by Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Mordechai Kedar, former senior IDF military intelligence officer, an Israeli scholar of Arabic culture and a lecturer at WION University. He joins us from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much both for making time for us today. Now, we understand that Washington's tentative diplomatic framework with Iran, it appears to hinge a great deal on an end to the Israeli military operation in Lebanon and the withdrawal of the IDF troops from South Lebanon. Now, the South Lebanon, has it emerged as the new flashpoint in the West Asia conflict, Dr. Kedar, and would Israel consider making those concessions according to you?
Look, the conflict between Israel and Lebanon is not between Israel and Lebanon. It is between Israel and a terror organization named Hezbollah, sponsored by Iranians, which took Lebanon over, unfortunately. This is the problem. It's not a problem which started a month or 2 months ago. It started in the early 1980s, and since then we had several big wars with them, and during the time, all of the time, small war against them. This is the problem. When Hezbollah will be dismantled, when Hezbollah will become, Hizb in Arabic means a party. When they will act like a real party in the parliament, we have no problem with this. The problem is that this party has missiles and drones and kill Israelis, and by the way, Syrians as well. This party killed in Syria hundreds of thousands of people when they supported Bashar Assad. And this is the problem. This party sponsored by Iran and armed by Iran and trained by Iran is devoted to get rid of Israel altogether. Israel cannot tolerate such a thing, especially if Israel needs once in a while to take all the residents from the northern parts of Israel only because this party sends missiles and drones against us. This is something which no state in the world would tolerate. And now it's the time to get rid of the weapons of this party and to turn it into a real party. We have no problem with Lebanon. Lebanon is a peaceful country, good country. Once it was Switzerland of the Middle East until Hezbollah took Lebanon over. We want Lebanon normal, like most of the Lebanese. But unfortunately, this terror organization took over and the world says nothing.
We hear you, Dr. Kedar. Now, I also want Mr. Magnier to weigh on this because we understand that Donald Trump is under enormous pressure to produce a diplomatic breakthrough with Iran. And as things stand, that does require Israel to make some difficult concessions in Lebanon. Now, can Benjamin Netanyahu realistically say no to Washington? Or has Israel perhaps reached a point where the strategic dependence on the US has limited its room for maneuver here?
Large margin of relations, good relations with the United States. Trump, of course, wants to resume the negotiations with Iran. And Iran, of course, wants to keep Hezbollah as their front bastion in the Middle East, close to Israel, in order to continue to make the life of Israelis hell, as they know very well. And the world, including India, should all tell Trump, hey, this cannot continue. Hezbollah should be disarmed, just like other militias which the Iranians planted all over the Middle East. Look, the Houthis in Yemen are actually blocking.
Can we also get Mr. Magnier's view on this? Because, of course, we understand that the fight here is with Hezbollah, but the conversations that are happening in the US-mediated talks, but those are between the Lebanese and the Israeli side. And, of course, Hezbollah's complicity, it is something that we'll have to wait and watch. But, Mr. Magnier, do you think that Israel will have to make those difficult concessions in Lebanon? And can Benjamin Netanyahu realistically say no to Washington?
Thank you for having me. Israel doesn't have to make any difficult decisions if it respects international laws and the Lebanese sovereignty. 1982 Israeli invasion triggered the creation of Hezbollah that took the position that the Lebanese army failed to take, and that goes on since 1982 until 2026. Even in 2025, when the Lebanese government considered Hezbollah as an outlaw and ordered the Lebanese army to go and deploy in the south of Lebanon, the Israeli invaded the south of Lebanon, and the Lebanese president ordered the withdrawal of the Lebanese army, and Israel killed many officers and soldiers within the Lebanese army. So it is not that difficult if Israel stick to international law and look about its own security, but not about what Lebanon is doing and thinking that they can impose that on Lebanon. Moreover, Syria did not fire a bullet after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, and Israel went to destroy all the Syrian military bases, the warehouses, and Syria still did not fire, to the point that the Americans were extremely angry with the Israelis because Israel wants to continue occupying more land in Lebanon and in Syria, because any deal with Syria that forces the Israelis to pull out from the Syrian Golan Heights that is occupied and Quneitra that the Israelis are occupying. Therefore, leaving the south of Lebanon and Syria means the fall of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who relies on war rather than on peace, like President Donald Trump, who complained about the conduction and the behavior of the Israeli army in Lebanon and the mass destruction that they are causing. So it is very clear what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. He is using the war on Lebanon and remaining in the south of Lebanon for his campaign. And it's a politically motivated and is not security motivated, when the Lebanese army said it will occupy the south of Lebanon and control it, and Hezbollah would withdraw from the south of the Litani River as stipulated in the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701. But what the US envoy Thomas Barak said, the Israelis are no longer concerned about the Sykes-Picot borders. They're no longer concerned about leaving Lebanon or Syria. They want to occupy part of the two countries.
Right, and while the situation does remain delicate and the ideological red lines do remain, but according to reports, the past 24 hours of the talks, they saw some gaps between the Israeli and Lebanese sides shrink. Though, of course, this is still not enough for a deal to be reached. But what would realistically, move the needle for Israel at this point, Dr. Kedar, in your assessment?
No, I think that what we heard from Elijah is totally detached from reality. We have nothing to do with Lebanon. We have nothing to do with Syria. All we want is to live in peace with our neighbors. The problem is that our neighbors, in spite of international law, are vowed to get rid of us altogether. From them, the occupation is not what we took in Lebanon. For their point of view, occupation is the whole state of Israel. And whoever knows something about the Middle East knows it exactly. And I'm very surprised to hear what you say. They are fighting in order to get rid of us altogether, in Tel Aviv as well. So we defend ourselves like international law. International law doesn't say that we don't have to defend ourselves. And as long as our neighbors like Iran and Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen and Hamas and all the other terror organizations want to get rid of us, we have the natural and the legal right to defend ourselves, just like any other country in the world. So to say that we want to occupy other countries, forget it. We have nothing to look for in Lebanon. We have nothing to look for in Syria. And in order to defend ourselves, what would you like? The Syrian army to fall into the hand of a jihadist who is wanted for $10 million on his head? This is what you mean? That's what you wanted us to leave the ex-Syrian army or Bashar army in the hands of a jihadist who was in ISIS and in Al-Qaeda? This is something totally insane to think about. So please learn a little bit about the realities of the Middle East and what we who live on our ancestral land here in the land of Israel, what we have to face, and then start to talk about international law, which anyway allows us to defend ourselves.
Right, and I understand your point, Dr. Cohen, but of course, the regional stability and the peace right now, it is hinged on what is happening in Iran. And if Netanyahu rejects Washington's demands and the proposed understanding with Iran collapses, who bears the responsibility for the failure here? Is it going to be the Israeli government? Or is it perhaps the Trump administration for overestimating its leverage here? Mr. Magna, why don't you take this one?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that decades in the Middle East, learning about it and living there, and I think the victimizing is over. Nobody believes this right to defend itself, that Israel is always bringing out at a card. We're talking about Israeli officials from the government, Ben Gvir, Smotrich, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel Katz, saying we will not withdraw from the security zone that are under our control. The rhetoric is something and the fact is something else. In the last ceasefire that was established between the Americans in Switzerland and the Iranians, it is very clear. They said they end the war on all fronts, and yet Israel continued to bomb Lebanon and kill more Lebanese. Therefore, there is nothing to defend itself when the Israelis have nuclear bomb. They are the strongest army in the Middle East. They have the military overpower over every single army.
Najia, of course, those are all very valid points. Thank you so much both for joining us on the broadcast. But gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all the time we had today. We'll have to wait and see how the situation evolves from here. But for now, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.